Hey, what's up, friends? Just want to drop you guys a video on this sandbag challenge that I've been meaning to get out, but I haven't been doing it because of mean old Mr. Resistance. Sometimes when you don't feel really confident in something, you feel some resistance. Well, that's exactly where I'm at today. I don't like to communicate on these videos. I love communicating in person. I love seeing your faces. I love seeing your body language, feeling the energy in the room. That really fires me up for conversation. Talking into a camera is really hard for me. I just don't do well at it. So I've been putting this off, but damn it, today's the day we're gonna get it done. First and foremost, I wanna say I am absolutely so impressed with the people that did this challenge. What an epically difficult challenge to take on. You're gonna carry a sandbag for a quarter mile and you're going to do it 31 days. That's just a really hard challenge. So props to all of you that did this challenge. And I mean did this challenge as in attempted to do it. This isn't a judgment on those that did all 31 days against those who didn't finish all 31 days. That's not what this thing was about. You know, sure, if you struggled to finish all 31 days, if you had days that you missed, if you dropped out after 2 weeks, look, this is about gaining information. This isn't about judging yourself. This is about understanding information, and then through that information, you can start to decipher what might be your next step towards improvement, towards becoming the person you could be. So there's information in all those carries you did, and there's also information in you not finishing the challenge. So just pay attention to what that is. Start to think about it, not by judging and not by beating yourself up or feeling like a failure, but judge yourself or judge what happened based off of how you feel. So if you quit the challenge, why did you quit? Just think about that. Why do I have problems with consistency? Why can't I stick to it? Why, when things get to a certain level, do I bail? Was I looking for excuses? Did I start to build a list of excuses why I couldn't do this challenge? Okay, where are those excuses coming from? What is kind of the root of where those issues are? Am I convincing myself that these are the reasons when there's really a deeper, another reason why I couldn't complete this challenge? Just ask those questions and don't do it in a way that makes you feel like shit. Do it in a way that actually is like, I'm in a class, I'm educating myself, I'm learning something. How exciting is that? So I'm not deciphering between those who carried 31 days and those who did not. In fact, I carried 30 days. I missed a day, and I didn't even make up for it at the end. So I didn't do it perfectly either. So screw it. That's not the part that matters. The part that matters is we're taking this time now to understand what we felt, what we learned from it, and then move on. That concept is so fascinating because it's actually a concept you find in machine learning, in like artificial intelligence, in the way that it learns. It's so cool because artificial intelligence doesn't learn by amassing information with this huge database of storage that it just stores all the information in the world. It doesn't learn that way. It learns like a human, which is to fail or to succeed, find the lesson, and forget the experience. So machines don't remember all the things they've done. Like they've designed a machine they didn't design it to play chess. They designed artificial intelligence, a deep learning machine. It learns. And they gave it the rules of chess. And they gave it 4 hours to play that game. And it played probably like 1 million games over that 4 hours. But the cool part about that is it didn't memorize anything. All it did was learn what worked and learn what didn't work and moved on and completely forgot the experience. Which is really fascinating because we've found a lot through machine learning how humans learn. And we need to fail. We need to make mistakes. We need to do things wrong. But we don't need to hold on to that memory, that experience. We don't need to hold on to it. We just need to take the lesson from it. So with this, I hope you just take the lessons from it and you do not look at this as a success or failure thing. You look at it as just another opportunity to learn about yourself. So with that said, let's go into a little bit of the questions that we had. And I'm just going to address the first and main one because this will probably take a little bit of the most of the time, is why did you feel your low back more when when the weight was lighter and there was a time constraint, as opposed to when the weights got heavier but you didn't have to report your time. And what's interesting about that is it's referring to controllable stress versus uncontrollable stress. So when you were carrying the lighter bag, the weight was lighter. You would think the stress was less. But because you were under a time constraint, you felt that judgment of the time, that I'm going to have to post this time, I'm going to have to report how fast I did it. And that became an uncontrollable stress. I have to do this as fast as I could. So what does that do in a couple ways? A couple ways, it makes you feel like you're out of control. So like, I am not in control of this situation because if my back starts to hurt, I can't drop it. I've got to get this done. So there's an uncontrollable element there. There's a judgment there in that you've got to post the time. That can be really challenging because we'll ask ourselves to go beyond where we should be because of the fear of the judgment coming from someone else or something else. So that's the uncontrollable stress. And then when I took the weights higher, which you think would elicit a stronger stress response, but I took away the time constraint, now all of a sudden it became about you. No one's going to know how long this thing took me. No one's going to know how many times I dropped it. So now all of a sudden I can feel and I can be in control of this stress that I'm applying to myself. We see this in science. So when they've done tests on mice, they'll have a mouse that is on kind of on the rat wheel and it can't get off and the wheel's spinning and it has to stay moving. That mouse has a different stress response. Actually, a different part of their brain starts to be activated. I'll have to look up which part of the brain it is. The hypothalamus. So the one that could not control its stress actually started to access the part of its brain called the hypothalamus. And then there was another mouse, and it could get on and off the wheel whenever it wanted to. So it could apply the stress as it felt it wanted it, and then it could end the stress when it felt it needed it. And that mouse, locus coeruleus, so that was the part of the brain that was activated when the mouse could decide when it wanted the stress and when it didn't want the stress. What's important about that is understanding two different parts of the brain were activated. So the idea of wanting to be there versus not wanting to be there is absolutely crucial to connecting to yourself and to improvement, to the point that it actually stimulates different parts of your brain, which then if we start to understand what the parts of those brains do, they release different hormones. So there's noradrenaline that gets released, there's other hormones that get released with other parts of the brain. So your desire to be there and your desire to not be there is so important all the way down to literally you on a cellular level. And I won't be able to get into all that. If you want to read a book that's fascinating, it's called it has to do with the idea of Maxwell's demons. There's a book called Demon in the Machine, and it talks about this stuff way, 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 way deeper. Let me know if you do decide to read that book, because I'll need to give you some context and how it connects to this stuff. But it's the overall idea of, do you want to be here or do you not want to be here? And that actually incorporates different parts or different type of sympathetic response. So that's the number one thing you felt there. Like, why did I tend to feel my hamstrings and glutes more when the clock wasn't involved, but yet the weight was way higher? Well, it's because you could control the stress. So once you can control the stress, then you didn't have the same sympathetic response as when you couldn't control the stress. The other concept to that does not have to do really with nervous system per se or biology per se. It's kind of really just an idea that I've gotten from psychologists. But it's the idea that when picking up responsibility or when picking up the things in which we should carry, in this case, it's the symbolism is in a sandbag. You're picking up that weight. But imagine that weight could be related to anything as far as responsibility or burdens or whatever meaning you have in your life. When we pick up what is doable, what within our minds is something that we can handle, it elicits, it draws from us the parts of ourselves that we already know. Because when you pick up, say, the 60-pound sandbag or the 50-pound, let's just say the 50-pound sandbag, because everyone at least carried 50 pounds. Everyone in that gym knew that they could pick up and carry that 50-pound bag. So it only pulled from them the parts of themselves that they already knew, the parts that they already had. But when you pick up a weight that is heavier, that you are now moving into uncharted territory, into deep water, into places you've never been, to carry that weight and to carry that responsibility is going to bring out of you things that with a lesser weight you would never experience or never know. So the responsibility and the weight of that sandbag is actually drawing from you parts of you you're not normally using. So you could think about it a different way, like it's a weight so heavy it requires all of you, everything you are. So when you picked up that whatever weight was and started carrying it and you felt your glutes and hamstrings, it's because you had to feel your glutes and hamstrings to carry that weight. It's something that was required. It's the weight was heavy enough that it actually pulled from you activation in your glutes and hamstrings and low belly and pecs and lats. So there's something to that. But once and then you can take it even further and say it's actually like a pressure on the bones. So we know that through our peripheral nervous system, we get all of our information, right? Like anything we know about the outside world or the current state of our environment, whether it's a safe environment or a dangerous environment, whether we are in a fight or whether we're not, that comes through our skin, through our bones, through our senses. You're getting that through your eyes and your mouth and your nose and your ears, but you're also getting it through your sense of touch. You're getting it actually through the bone. Imagine if you were in a fight, the impact on the bone, or imagine if you were running from something, the impact on your foot. All of those signals are coming from your physical self, and they're confirming what your nervous system is anticipating, which are you are in a fight. So what happens when we pick up a lighter bag, we start to carry it, but the pressure on our body, the pressure on our skin, the pressure from the bag, the pressure on our skeletal system isn't actually enough to match the fight that we are anticipating in our minds, or even really deeper than just our minds. So what that causes is it causes a somatic error. There's an error in the system that says, I'm perceiving this is going to happen, but the signals from my body, it's not matching that. What happens when we actually carry the weight we should be carrying is the anticipated fight is matched by the actual physical feeling on our structure, on our bones. So when that match happens and you actually get into a true fight response, and the weight that you're carrying, the fight that you're in actually matches what you're anticipating, there's so many things I could go into, but it has to do with prediction and making predictions. And when your prediction matches your experience, it's like ding, 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 everything is right in the world. Even if your prediction was, this is going to suck, this is going to hurt, this is going to be the worst thing ever, it's even good when that prediction matches. Because imagine you could be, this is going to be the easiest thing ever, and it becomes the hardest thing ever. It's like, okay, that's a somatic error too. That's a prediction error as well. So why did you feel so amazing after a carry that was so heavy, but you got in your glutes and hamstrings? It's like, well, your prediction matched what you actually felt. And so in that, you can elicit a real fight, a true fight response. And that does things to us that I won't even be able to explain in this video. I'd love to explain in further detail someday, but it's the reason why you felt so amazing, because your prediction matched what happened, and the weight was actually heavy enough to require all of you. And so all of you came to a fight that actually happened. And that is what this thing's all about when we start to discuss how we balance our nervous system and how we start to regulate the actual feelings we have inside with the signals we're receiving from the outside world. So that's the overall idea of why your back hurt on the lighter bag, but with the time constraint, and why your backs didn't hurt as much on the carries that were heavier, but you could control how long it took you. So that's kind of the idea there. So let me look at some of my notes. Yeah, so if you took anything from that, just take the wanting versus not wanting. And you could start to take this into your workout. Sometimes I'll say to my people in my classes, it's like, don't endure this workout. And that's precisely what I'm trying to say is, don't just tolerate what's happening to you. Be active in the process. You know, I can say hi to your friends. See that nose? Yeah. You don't want to endure the process. You want to be active in the process. And it's so important. It's all the way down to you on a cellular level. When you want to be there, certain things are activated hormonally and cellularly, things change, versus when you don't want to be there, when you're just tolerating what's happening to you. So if you're somebody that's really stagnated or somebody that can't find like that next level that they're looking for, I'd really start to ask you, when you train, do you want to be there? Or are you one of those people that it's like, you're stoked to go to the gym, you're excited to go see this people at your gym, you're kind of even excited for the workout, and then right as you're getting warmed up for the workout, you're just like, oh my God, I don't want to be here, this is gonna suck. When the workout starts going on, you're like, holy crap, this is the hardest thing ever, I don't like this hurts, hurry up, clock, just tick. You're dreading every rep. I'm telling you, fix that about yourself. And if you need help with that, please ask me. I've got some really cool things that are coming up in the next couple months that are going to help you guys start to address some of these things. We're going to start offering a new class that's really exciting, that can help you start to understand these things deeper. And it's going to be a class that is structured in a way that allows you the room to learn how to feel and to experience without some of the uncontrollable stress that CrossFit style workouts can bring with the clock and with just purely the style of movements. And in no way am I saying that CrossFit is not amazing and the thing we will be doing for a very long time. It's just saying, like, well, to learn certain things, you'll have to do new things. You can't necessarily learn new things doing all the same old things you've been doing. So it's just saying, like, we're going to have to introduce some new stuff if for any of you that do want to learn this stuff. And it is not a judgment on those that don't want to learn it. It does not matter to me. It's where you are at, you know where you're at, and I'm not pushing anybody to go in the direction I'm going. So if you want to look into this stuff a little further, we got something coming for you. Just be patient with me. But anyways, that's kind of the overall idea of that. Let me look through a few other questions that we had on here. Shoot, I just lost my stuff. Hold on a second, I'm sorry. My app had to reload, which I'm guessing if I had an Android, Brandon, that wouldn't be a problem. Okay. Looks like I addressed that. What would be a good drill progression to be able to pick up heavier bags? I'm kidding. No, that really is it. You've got to do it. So what's really cool about the Sandbag, one thing that fires me up about the Sandbag is it's not easy to mess with. It shifts and changes. It's like a barbell at 45 pounds is this grip, and it's right up against my shin. And a barbell at 800 pounds is this grip, and it's right up against my shin. Well, sandbags don't work that way. As the weight goes up, the circumference changes. Given the nature of the sandbag, the consistency is shifting and changing. I love that because why? It pisses me off and gets me frustrated. But what's the cool thing about frustration? Frustration actually, with the correct intent and with the correct understanding of it, accelerates your rate of learning. So, how do you pick up heavier sandbags? Start picking up sandbags. but pay attention to how you're picking them up. If you're picking up a 50-pound sandbag and it's going from the floor to your shoulders in one smooth motion, that's never, ever, ever going to allow you to pick up a 100-pound sandbag. To pick up a 100-pound sandbag requires different technique. It requires actually lapping the sandbag. It requires hugging the sandbag into your belly. It requires you then to roll it up your abdomen and up your chest into that front rack position. You can't just grab it and throw it over your shoulder. PJ, this isn't working out really, so why don't you head on out? Go. So with that said, make sure you're lifting it correctly. Insist if you're doing a workout with sandbags, and yes, you could just pick it up to your shoulders in one smooth motion. Well, don't do that. That's not going to lend towards you being able to pick up a 150 or 200-pound sandbag, which many people in our gym do have the capacity to do if they just practice it. So you might get frustrated, but that's okay. Get frustrated. If you allow yourself to have a learning and curious mindset, that frustration will actually accelerate your ability to learn. So you'll learn faster. So cool. And then just make sure you're using the correct technique. And if you'd like me to do a video on the technique of the sandbag, dude, let me know. I'd love to do that. That'd be so much fun to show you guys how to lap heavier and heavier bags. Should we have used heavier bags that we would need from a box, or stick with the weight in battle picking it up? Yes and yes. Do both. It depends. I would just look for a balance between the two. I would be picking up heavier bags so that, and struggling with that bag to pick it up, because I want to someday be able to pick something really heavy up off the ground and carry it. In the meantime, I can't pick it up, but I want to carry your heavier bags. Oh, well, have a buddy help you pick it up. Let's put it on a box and let's do some really heavy carries. So both of those things are absolutely great options, and I would encourage you to mix both of those. And don't feel judged by the fact you can't pick a bag up, because as soon as you learn to pick it up, there's just going to be a heavier bag. I mean, as soon as I see people starting to use the 220 bag all the time, I'm just going to buy a 300-pound bag. So don't feel judged by the fact you can't pick it up. Just keep working on it and balance it out. Make sure you're not always picking up a weight that is within your scope of ability. Pick up something, or try to pick up something you don't know if you can pick up. Remember, it might pull from you things that are otherwise not being used if you don't challenge yourself to that higher level. I feel like I've connected. I'm trying to see here. Feel like my anxiety dropped. Yeah, see, that has to do with that fight. Like, you're actually eliciting a full fight. So if you felt like at the end of it, you're just like blank-faced, zen, like you're just quiet and just like a little chill, that's what happened. You exhausted all that fight energy, which happens very, very rarely in CrossFit workouts, at least. Oh no, what just happened? Dude, my phone just freaking died. Oh, that so sucks. I won't be able to read the rest of these. That is so annoying. I apologize. That is definitely my error, not looking at my phone before I started this thing. I do remember Brian, I think, had a question. Mike, I was just finishing yours, so if I see something, Mike Yenner, if I see something in your comment that I didn't address, I'll make sure to address it in the comments below, so look for that. Brian Barrett, I do remember, I think you said maybe something like, or somebody said it maybe like, how often should we do this to maintain like the muscle memory? Well, if you were really, really badass at it and you can just carry forever and like stay in your IT chain, yeah, maybe you don't need to do these all the time. However, if you don't feel so great inside and maybe like you deal with some anxiousness or you deal with some restlessness or just feeling agitated, I would recommend using the sandbag to do that. I think Mars mentioned in one of the comments, like, why did I feel emotional? I can't really go into that in great depth. Mars, I'll definitely address that to you in person. But it has to do with certain muscles and how those muscles can kind of store emotions. So don't look at yourself as My physical self is separate from my mental and emotional self. Like what you carry emotionally can be stored in your body physically. So if you have muscles that don't work really well, like there might be a reason they don't work well that's separate from just biology. It might have to do with a little bit of like your psychology. And when those muscles start to connect, it can elicit an emotional response. So I'll be the first to say I've been in tears after a sandbag carry that I really went deep in. Jackie would tell you the same thing. Caitlin Randolph would tell you the same stinking thing, and she's not, wouldn't shy away from saying like, yeah, dude, these things can elicit a response from you. Why that is in its entirety really needs to be spoken to on the individual level. So I won't pretend to say that there's just like it just means this for everybody. It doesn't. But basically, you've got a muscle that's not connecting. It's not connecting for a reason, and when it starts to connect, it can really create an emotional response. So if that's you, like, well, carry a lot. Multiple times a week, and vary the type of carry. Longer, lighter, short and super heavy, but multiple intervals. Mix it up. Do all kinds of stuff with it. Do a 5 squats, carry a certain distance, 5 squats, carry a certain distance, like add some squats in there, or 5 hinges with a sandbag, or sandbag deadlifts into a carry, into deadlifts into a carry, like mix that stuff around. You could do front rack carries or front hold carries. I'd say if you're looking for the more emotional kind of connection, I'd do hug carries. There's something about hugging and squeezing that's kind of important. But if you just flat out sucked at it, it's like, well, yeah, man, I just do it a lot. What's really cool about these movements and why we do them, and this is something I challenge anyone that said like, oh, these things wrecked me, these things destroyed me, like, I felt like shit. You did. I'm not saying you didn't. Like they can cause some discomfort if you're not really balanced in your muscles. You can't get the right muscles to work. Dang it, I just forgot my train of thought. Crap, forgot my train of thought. Man, that stinks because I had a really good one on that one. I'll put it in the comments below. But anyways, with that said, carry often, change it up, modify it, do whatever you need to do, but I would do lots of carries. There's a reason you're not connecting to the right muscles, and you need to do it. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. The cool thing about the carries and why I recommend you do them a lot and do them often, I wouldn't recommend you do power cleans every single day, but I recommend you do a sandbag carry every day. I wouldn't recommend you deadlift every day, but I would recommend you push a sled every day. Why? It's this concept of WES, W-E-S, weight, eccentric, and skill. So when you are trying to connect to a muscles that won't connect, you need to use movements where you can bring the weight down, you can minimize the eccentric, which is the lowering of a movement. So if you think about a pull-up, it's actually the lowering from the bar is the concentric, lowering from the bar is the eccentric. In a squat pattern, it would be the sitting down part of the squat would be the eccentric. That's the stuff that really destroys muscles and causes lots and lots of soreness and muscle pain. If you remove the eccentric and only have concentric effort, then it doesn't destroy as much muscle and you can do them a lot more often. The other thing, if you're trying to connect to muscles, you want to remove as much skill as possible. So snatches aren't the best way to try and connect to your pecs and lats. It's just too complex. You need something a little simpler, maybe like a landmine press or something like that. Well, the same thing applies with the sandbag and sled. Think about the sandbag. You can modify the weight to whatever you want it to be. It could be a 10-pound plate. Who cares? Eccentric, there is none. And skill, you're literally hugging something and walking with it. It's as low skill as it gets. Pushing a sled, same thing. We can modify the weight to whatever you need. Think about the eccentric in that. You drive with one leg, and then you drive with the other. There's no pulling the sled backwards with your leg and then pushing it forward and pulling it back. So there's no eccentric loading in the sled. And then skill. You're pushing a shopping cart. How simple can it get? So That's the way you want to address connective issues and structural issues that you're trying to fix. So if anybody was like, dude, I blow up, that was horrible, I can't do these every day, maybe you can't do them every day, and that's okay. Do them often, though. Don't shy away from them just because they made you feel a little crappy. Like, do them often, get better at them. And I can assure you that as long as you keep the weight correct and you don't go crazy with it, and as long as you keep the distance brought to a reasonable distance, I guess I'd probably say it this way. If it really wrecked you, I would do shorter carries with heavier weight really, really often. I'd probably just stay away from the 400 and 200 meters. What I would do is I'd set a box at one end of the main room and a box at the other end of the main room, and I'd pick it up and I'd carry it and I'd set it on that other box and I'd rest a little while and I'd pick it up and carry it, and I'd do that like 10 times. So if you're one of those people that you're like, dude, I couldn't do this every day, it was just too much. I think maybe Steve Haruska said something like that. Steve, I would just do short carries, but do them every single day. But just do not go into that long distance stuff. You need to build some connection before you really venture into that. That's probably what was wrecking you a little bit, was just that really long distance. So keep that in mind. But anyways, with all of that said, I think I've probably covered everything that I need to cover. It's only been 30 minutes of me talking to you all. If you're still listening to this video, I love you. Thank you for listening. That's phenomenal. I know sometimes I come off a little bit as an asshole in some of these videos. That's been brought to my attention with the Smurf, but hopefully you can weigh what I say in the video that might be a little abrasive or abrupt or harsh, and you can weigh it against the ways I actually treat people, which is with love and compassion and long suffering and patience, because I know that's who I am. I do treat people that way, and I insist on that in myself. So if I'm a little, sometimes use words maybe in this video I did that are a little abrasive and kind of stir your gut a little bit, just remember, I absolutely love you guys. Man, this gives me so much energy to see people that want to learn like this. It's just exciting. Like, man, what other group of people exist out there that just love to learn, and they love to share it with other like-minded people? And that's not even that we all have the same beliefs. It's that we all have the same belief that we can be more than what we are if we just do the things we can do. This isn't about judging ourselves against anything other than ourselves and who we have been previously and who we are now. And the growth I see from a lot of you in the gym is just, man, you guys are doing it. You're doing it. Even if it doesn't feel like you're doing it, you really, really are. And it's just inspiring as all get out. So anyways, love you guys. I appreciate you. You mean a lot to me, and I hope that this Sandbag Challenge was useful for you. I hope this video was useful for you. And then keep an eye out for some new stuff coming in the next couple months for those that really want to go have these conversations a lot and do some really cool stuff. So anyways, namaste, mole trucker.